voice. There it is. Hello. Oh, the ego is so tricky, isn't it? Um, I wrote a little piece, or a little piece came, and and I and I just reread it with some satisfaction. That wow, that's sounded pretty good. uh, and just to watch that um, this whole idea of surrender would be easy if ego didn't have a voice of its own. But it does. And it says, oh, it says, we got this. Yeah, we got this. So the beautiful thing about the work, if you will, with the addict and the alcoholic often is that many of addicts and alcoholics, when they come to a point in their life where they're willing to really look, they're really beat up, they're really often defeated. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to awaken, but it does mean that often it's kind of a counterbalance, because their ego and their self will is has been very strong, and when it awakens, it's very strong. But in the moment when they're defeated, when I, as an alcoholic, have been in different times of my life, defeated to a point where I surrendered, where I said, "Look, I just don't. Okay, I get it. I cannot let go when I'm running the show." So the alcoholic or the addict often comes to a point where they're just, okay, I surrender. I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. And then what happens, the beauty of it, in the way that the 12 steps were put together, is that it shows us for some reason or another, there we go. I don't know what happened, whether that worked or not, but sometimes I lose the connection. And isn't that beautiful? That's a metaphor. We lose the connection, and now we're back. Um, so, you know, the trick actually is just exactly what happened to when we lose the connection, or that feeling of oneness, that feeling of completeness. We just we relax, we take it easy, we pause, and we wait for it to open up, if you will, and um, with what happens with self-centered ego is that the panic sets in, fear sets in, and with the alcoholic and the addict, when it feels restless, irritable, discontent because he doesn't have that connection. He's not feeling, or she's not feeling that connection. Um, uh, we we try to fill out the space, that space of what seems to be an emptiness with drugs or alcohol or relationship. And if we can just be in that emptiness, just feel that space, then a knowing comes, a oneness comes, a beautiful peace comes. Yeah. So anyway, quickly back to what I was saying. He said, know thyself, know thyself. And many of us, have been conditioned that, or this whole idea that in the ego sphere, we can manage with affirmations, or we can manage with, telling us to ourselves that we're okay, I'm okay, and in a way, yes, that's helpful. But there's a higher place, there's another place we can go to. In the surrender, letting go of the idea that we know, not taking ourselves too seriously, we can be in a higher state. Because there's no words for it, we call it connection with God, or power, or universal intelligence. But let's imagine that it's just our natural state. It's just our natural state and beyond. It's our natural state. It isn't something mystical. It isn't something separate. And ego is quite prepared to argue against that. Just listen sometimes to the mind saying, what do you mean, natural state? So I'm not asking you to believe in something that's separate from you. I'm not suggesting that awakening, or enlightenment, if you will, or other. There we go. I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi. Or my connection today. So the message, it's what I wrote. Read what I wrote, just what came out. I. We get convinced with, or confused with I. But read what was written. And it basically says, know thyself. And what happens in step 4 is we really get to see ourselves. Like, oh my gosh, I have been angry. I've been resentful. I've been fearful. And step 4 is just that. It's a know thyself step. And, and I'm convinced, I'm not convinced, I know that I cannot live that way. I have no desire to live in anger and fear, guilt and shame. None. And so as we surrender those things, as we let them go, as we ask the moment to take them away, as we ask a concept of God, if you will, to take them away, take away my fear, take away my anger, we're lifted out of there. Literally, that's what happens, is we're lifted out of there into a state of our natural state. That's basically what I'm saying. And this is not from me. This is from many, many teachers. This is, taking the time to study it. It's from many teachers. Our natural state is a state of love, not a state of fear, not a state of anxiety. And if you're living in anxiety, if you're living in fear, if you're living in anger, if you're aware of that, that's awesome. You're aware of it. We don't have to numb ourselves. Just breathe into it. Recognize that we can ask the moment, we can ask God, if you will, to remove that. We can. And begin to live and study the spiritual principles. We can't continue to be dishonest and hope that it's going to move. We can't continue to live, we have to become more present and more conscious. We can't live in an angry way. And so just see it. If you see it, you can be free of it. Just see it. When anger comes up about whatever, some old resentment, and that's why we go through and heal those resentments and make those amends, because we see them. It's like, oh, look, that's who I've been. And then awareness is power. Awareness is, aware that that's who we've been. We accept that's who we've been, and it can be lifted from us, and we go into our natural state. That's the deal. So, forgive the interruptions today as we lost our signal. What a metaphor. Yes. I want to just share that knowing this doesn't mean that we don't continue to struggle. Or knowing this doesn't mean that the thoughts don't come, or that mind just automatically shuts off. What happens though is we get in the practice of just a bit dismissing it, saying, that's okay, because mind will continue, I believe, right up until death to make up story. And it's certainly lessened, I think, But so know that that's a piece of it. I talked to a man the other day, and he wanted some tips on meditation. And his first thing was that my mind is really busy. Join the club. Yes, join the club. We all have busy minds, and who are used to running the show. Your mind has been running the show, and so just tell it to relax. And meditation is a practice of helping to let it go, helping to see it in its, crazy patterns, and so just let it go, and practice letting it go, practice seeing it, making up stories, and sometimes our stories can, be so grossly self-centered. We think that people are talking about us, or we think that people are against us, or we think that there's a conspiracy in the planet, and that we have to protect ourselves. And often that's very self-centered. What can I do today to bring love into the moment? How about that? What can I do today to be of service in the moment? God, universe, moment, show me what you'd have me to be and do. Bring that as a practice. Bring that as a practice, and watch how you're lifted up. It just becomes who you are. Service, love. And then we watch each day to see where we've been selfish or self-centered or dishonest, and we've released that. It's a practice. And eventually less and less that, it needs to be there less and less, or it's there less and less. And we move into a higher state of love and consciousness. And that's it. I'm going to read today. We're on page day. I think it's the August the 27th. I think. My gosh, is that true? Is it August the 27th? I think it is. I think let's go with August the 27th. And this is from this little book called the 24-Hour Day Book. And There's some great little tidbits in here, like on the practical side, because there is the practical. When sometimes we don't feel guided or we don't feel connected, we have this practical. It's not dogma, it's just practical. It's like, oh, okay, this is in absence of inspiration, how we can, not cause too much damage. It says August 26th, a thought for the day. We must be willing, it says, to make amends to all people we have harmed. We must be willing to make amends to all people we have harmed. We must do the best we can to repair the damage done in the past. So as we clean up the damage of the past, we also helps us to surrender guilt and shame and from the past, as we clean it up, we make amends. And also we get to go deeply into seeing how we have caused damage and how when running from ego and fear and self-centeredness, we are damaging. We can be, We make amends when we say, I'm sorry. The person is sure, at least, to be impressed by our sincere desire to set right the wrong. That's a maybe, but okay. Sometimes a person we are making amends to admits his own fault, so feuds of long standing melt away. Our most ruthless creditors will sometimes surprise us. In general, we must be willing to do the right thing no matter what the consequences may be for us. Have I made a sincere effort, it says, have I made a sincere effort to make amends to the people I have harmed? The amends process in the 12 steps is magic, really in the process of knowing thyself. It helps us to see, the damage that we've caused with our self-centered ways. Meditation for the day. The grace of God, it says, cures disharmony and disorder in human relationships. Do you remember, you can replace God with now. The holding on to an idea that God is something separate, that we have to do something to earn his love or his grace is what separated us from God. That idea, and many religions have talked of that idea, but we are not separate. God either is or he isn't, everything or is nothing. So we are one with that. And when people kind of get angry and say, I don't believe in God, often they're resisting the idea of a separate God. And I understand that. That there's a knowingness, an innate knowingness deep down of us that we are one with that. And it's beyond really human understanding. So there you go. So the grace of God cures disharmony and disorder in human relationships. Directly you put your affairs with their confusion and their difficulties into God's hands. He begins to effect a cure in all the disharmonies and disorder. You can believe that he will cause you no more pain. You can believe that he will cause you no more pain in the doing of it than a physician who plans and knows that he can effect a cure would. Oh, I see. So doing the work won't cause any more pain than having, the work that a surgeon might have to do to set a broken bone or to do some work in that area. You can have faith that God will do all that is necessary as painlessly as possible, but you must be willing to submit to his treatment. So we got to go through with it, even if you cannot see the meaning or purpose of it. So that's beautiful. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may willingly submit to whatever spiritual discipline is necessary. I pray that I may accept whatever it takes to live a better, more full, more loving life. Okay, you guys, thanks so much Know thyself. And what's beautiful in this is that we have in our circle people who are good at helping us to see ourselves if we're willing to turn ourselves over to them. We call them sponsors, you know, a sponsor who's done the work, who's become self-aware, who's become God conscious, can help break through the ego defenses. So I encourage that, and it's an ongoing thing. And I think that if we don't have a sponsor, you know, if we're not talking to somebody on a regular basis about, you know, our life and helping us to see ourselves, we we're we're kind of managing again our own, you know. So we have to trust that there are people that care, and we'll spend the time to help us see ourselves in each moment, no matter how long we've been on the path. You know, there's we all have areas to grow in, always, always. Okay, fellowship of the Spirit. It's beautiful. Okay, you guys, thanks. Love you lots. Talk soon.